Hey YouTube, let me do a video on how I'm drying my onions. This is how I'm storing my onions. I'm just out in the barn and got some string. I have tied them up from the stems. This is one way I'm doing it. Tied them up from the stems. Careful that they don't touch, and they may be getting a little close in some places, but as a general rule, I tried to space them out where they would not touch. And these have dried nicely. I left them outside for a long time, probably 2 weeks in some very hot temperatures. Actually these I pulled, I just remember now, I pulled these straight up out of the ground and tied them up because the stalks were still green when I did that. One of them has already fallen off, so you're gonna, as they get brittle, as they dry and get brittle, you may lose, because they just lose any tensile strength. So you may have one or two drop down. I think I had one, maybe two fall. Tied up 4 of these bunches, maybe 8 in each bunch. And I'm doing something a little different. Going to try something a little different for the first time this year. We've strung them up like this many years. And I would say that you need, just from experience and from other things that I've read, that you need to make sure they don't touch. That's where rotting can occur. If one of them starts to go and it's touching one, it is certainly going to take the next one with it. So anyway, let me move on to my next way to do this and see what you think about it. Okay, I went to Walmart and just bought 3 or 4 of these little $2.50 styrofoam ice chests, just the cheapest little ice chest you can find. What I've done here is just lasagna style. I've laid 6, 8, whatever you can get, some of them big, some of them small. I put down, first of all, a bed of sphagnum peat moss. Put a layer of onions and then another layer of spag, covered them completely with the peat moss. Another layer of onions. This is my 3rd layer, and I can get at least 1 more layer, maybe 2, and still be able to get the lid on it. Layering in between with the peat moss, onions, peat moss, or peat moss first, onions, peat moss, onions, peat moss, onions. And cover them up, not letting them touch. Again, you don't want them to touch. Some of them getting pretty close. But the peat moss is going to fill in between them as you put it in there, in between each layer. And I have read that peat moss is used to store things like bulbs, tulips, and etc. So, if that's the case, and I heard something also the other day that peat moss, especially the sphagnum, Canadian sphagnum peat moss, soaks up something like 28%, 28 times its weight in water, that it absorbs 28 times its weight, and that's very light. Obviously it doesn't weigh much, but 28 times its weight in water. So if these were to be a little humid, if for some reason you didn't get your onions very dry, then that might even be more of a help to them. So, but anyway, I'm going to do a couple of these tubs like this and put them in a room that I don't keep cool, but at the same time it's fairly well insulated. I have an air conditioner in it where I keep some food storage, and I turn the air conditioner on for a couple of hours every day, and then it keeps it much better than the 98 degrees that it is right now in the barn. But anyway, this is just one way that I'm going to try, and I will give you an update on it as we start using them, maybe 6 or 8 months from now, and let you know if that's the way I'm going to go from now on for storage. This should be a very good way, and I mentioned it in the other onion video. This should also be a good way to store potatoes, for seed potatoes for next year. We don't have cellars, basements. Down here in Texas, very few homes have a basement. So this is what we, or at least in part of Texas I'm at, maybe northern Texas Panhandle they might. So we don't have a place to necessarily store root crops or even apples and things like that, like a root cellar, like a basement, like a cellar. So we would have to dig a cellar, and I certainly may do that. I'm thinking about it now. Anyway, just a way to store your onions. I'll let you know how it goes. You may want to try it now, maybe with part of your onions. But a way to store the onions, and I think should make them keep much longer, even than the ones that are hanging up. We hung some up last year, and we lost several of them. You know, we're talking about 6 or 8 months down the road. But I noticed on the strings over there that one of them has already gotten mushy. So it happens fairly quickly. Anyway, I look at the other video about how I dried them, and you need to dry them. Get them very dry before you do anything like this or hang them up or whatever you do. So anyway, I think it's certainly worth a shot. I'm not going to do all the onions like this, but I'm going to do quite a few of them. About 4 of those styrofoam containers. So what the heck? I'm going to try to do something like that. Anyway, we got to finish lasagnaing our onions. Onion lasagna. I don't want to call it that. People are going to get the wrong idea. And onion peat moss lasagna. Anyway, I guess that's about it. Texas Pepper, we are gone.